So Keir Starmer is expected to announce plans for a digital ID scheme which will be compulsory.
Issue digital ID to prove they live and can work here. Well, and the plans to be announced by...
Digital IDs have well and truly hit the headlines again this week. Multiple governments have recently announced their decision to introduce them. They aren't a new concept, some countries already have them. For many, this is nothing more than just a logical step towards modernisation. Bringing everyone's data under one application, one database makes sense. Why shouldn't we trust the government with all our information if we already trust Facebook, Google, etc. with our online activities? Other countries have digital IDs and they haven't fallen into an Orwellian nightmare. Mostly those that oppose digital IDs are just being alarmist.
But is this really the case? If knowledge is power and power corrupts, should we be providing more knowledge to an already powerful system? Many would argue not, often foretelling of an impending Big Brother dystopian future, referencing George Orwell's 1984. They will point to recent history which is littered with abuses of power with digital IDs. The behaviours of governments only 5 years ago, in the midst of a global pandemic, seem to shed a light on how such a technology would be used if governments decided. It was in some ways a perfect storm of both political and corporate hunger for power and profits. Trust wasn't just eroded, it was destroyed, as the decisions of the few wrecked the livelihoods of the many.
Welcome back to Sapien and Cardano Insights, the channel for in-depth coverage and breakdowns of the most disruptive technology that's challenging the political, economic and social systems of the world. In this video, we'll dive into what digital IDs truly achieve for governments that the current systems do not, what the future may have in store for us if introduced, and explore if there is already a decentralized solution available to counter this type of overreach. So why do we need digital IDs? The UK government is saying they need it to help control illegal immigration. Australia is saying they need it to protect children, and Canada are saying they need it for reducing fraud. We are told that having all your information on one database will modernise society and make things much quicker and easier for government to do their jobs. Even though they all have different reasons for introducing digital IDs, they all share one thing in common. None are being introduced because the population asked for it.
Digital IDs are a very broad topic when you try to see how it affects people's lives. Where digital IDs have been introduced, they have barely had any effect on the areas we are given good justifications for introducing them, and they don't seem to really be replacing the old systems at the moment.
Mostly, if you need to seek healthcare, you're asked to show your health insurance, not your digital ID. For traffic violations, your driving licence is required to be produced. Many will point to digital IDs as a nothing burger for now. But is the lack of real impact in the countries where they have been introduced by design? Or is the reason because they exist to serve a purpose that has nothing to do with what we're being told and they don't want to play their hand yet?
How would you feel if Bill Gates, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg tried to take over the access to healthcare, work and vital services and functions, coupled with the data they have on your online activities? Would this be seen as a threat?
For the last 20 years, governments seem to think so. They recognise that just having that amount of data alone can be very powerful and dangerous in the wrong hands. And this is just one side of the coin, having the information. Imagine if they could affect your access to services or impede on your human rights, potentially even removing your access to a job, healthcare, freedom of speech or even movement. Even worse, imagine giving this powerful combination to an entity whose existence requires you to play ball politically and not step out of line. Imagine a system that you can't opt out of and exists to serve your rights as a citizen, but is being used against you, to silence you and threaten you with punishment if you don't agree with them, not just publicly, but privately.
Does this sound too far-fetched? The point is that it shouldn't even be a possibility, and doesn't need to be one either.
So what is this truly about? The moment they have their own database, they can bypass the legal systems that have been set up to keep them in check and stop overreach. This is the frustration that digital IDs aims to remove, the need to justify their overreach.
With digital IDs, they don't.
Recently, Ursula von der Leyen has been pushing hard to bring in laws where the EU will have unfettered access to all your messages. The last couple of decades, governments have been repeatedly frustrated by their court systems, private entities and democratic processes when trying to infringe on your privacy. They want to know not just what you say in public, but what you say in private. And herein lies another critical point. If it becomes the standard by removing the need to go through the relevant processes because we legitimise the amalgamation of all data into the control of the government, would we even be aware of such abuses of power? After the Patriot Act was introduced, it took Edward Snowden and others to effectively whistleblow about what abuses of power were really taking place, but we were all fully aware of when Trudeau forced the banks to block access for certain people to their own money. Ultimately, the issue is not the information doesn't exist or is not accessible by government, it's just that they are currently bound to and have to abide by the very safety measures and checks that were introduced to protect our rights. For the current governments, it seems this simply will not do. They are more concerned about their desire to control you than their duty to protect and uphold your rights. Whether it's cutting access to bank accounts, arresting you for social media posts, or overzealous policies aimed at those that dare to stand up to them, these governments have not exactly instilled a feeling that you can trust them not to abuse and increase visibility with no accountability into your personal life. The introduction of digital IDs themselves is showing the lengths they will go to get their way. You only have to look at the UK, which has seen over 3 million people sign a petition to stop digital IDs. Anything over 100,000 is supposed to be discussed in Parliament, where the very subject has fractured the parties themselves. The government's response: screw you. The last time we saw 3 million signatures for a petition was at the beginning of this year, which asked for a re-election due to the unpopularity of the government. Their response then: exactly the same. Today, you may feel that the current government's views and performance aligns with your own expectations. You may even feel like you can trust them. But what about 10 years from now? We all know that change can happen very quickly, and society can be hoodwinked or charmed into giving power to a bad actor, and it's not easy to undo.
The distrust in government is not just based on their attitudes towards discontent of the masses and the way they deal with disagreement. There is also growing concern that the reason given for introducing this scheme is actually based on not just the shortcomings of government, but a highly engineered one at that.
Whether it's opening up of borders, cutting funding to vital services, or just outright making decisions or turning a blind eye to the waste of public funds, it is seen by many to be an engineered failure or at best complete incompetence that leads to their justifications for increasing their power. There has been no argument given for a digital ID that fundamentally provides the government with a better way for them to fulfill their role. It does, however, allow them to bypass the judicial system so that they can access any information they want to be able to exert their will on individuals without having to justify anything. With leaks and hacks and even abandoned laptops on public trains coming from somewhere within the various organisations of government, but at least the information was relatively siloed to only a small part of your digital information. So why aren't these leaders showing the same level of concern around digital IDs? Is it because they know that these IDs are a part of a bigger agenda, one controlled by an unelected, faceless group of individuals that already have amassed the power to ensure certain outcomes and political agendas? So why are so many governments pushing so hard and ignoring the concerns to bring this in? It could be because we as a society are reaching an inflection point. Technologies are maturing that can go one of two ways. They can be used to either restore your liberties and self-sovereignties, or they can be used to further infringe upon them. Digital IDs in themselves are not a problem. We already have digital footprints that are connected to us. All of our vital information is digitally stored. So far, we have focused on the negatives of digital IDs, but let's look at the potential good. It may shed a light on why there has been such a rush recently by authorities to bring in their version of digital IDs. Introducing zero-knowledge proofs in a globally decentralized blockchain ecosystem. Firstly, it's worth explaining that zero-knowledge proofs are a huge topic to explain, probably a series of videos as opposed to a small section if just one. But coupled this technology with a truly decentralized blockchain, it opens up the possibility that you can share information to those that need it, but you control what information is shared, and the database is maintained by validators that cannot and do not desire to act maliciously. You keep full control of your data. Entities can request access to the information that they need, but you can opt in or opt out of the terms presented to you, whether it's in a mobile app or a government policy. Many companies and blockchains are working on this, and this is also true on Cardano. For example, the Cardano Foundation are currently working on a project called Veridian. As a high-level summary, it's a digital ID platform that protects users' data and prevents fraud. If you couple it with the Cardano blockchain, which is an optional feature, it gives individuals full control of what information is being shared. It's designed to support enterprise-level usage and specifically targets educational and healthcare records, along with any service that requires a safe, decentralized storage of sensitive information, whilst respecting the individual's rights to select what is shared. More importantly, moving away from the government control aspect for 1 second, it actually provides a solution to a massive problem in the global ecosystem created by the legacy world's siloed and often poorly managed databases: inequality. For more of an idea of what I'm referring to here, there is no better place to start than the TED Talk video by Charles in Bermuda, where he talks about how certain people in the world whose records either do not exist or the infrastructure is not trusted. This really limits large portions of the world's population to key services, insurances and freedoms. It would be a huge step in the right direction if ZKProofs and blockchain could fill this gap. So ultimately, the question today is, do you really want to have to trust government with unfettered access to all of your information and private messages, whilst also trusting them not to abuse their ability to control access to your finances, livelihood and healthcare because they don't like what they find, all without having to justify it in court or in parliament? Should we in fact be giving them less access right now, instead of more? Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep it sapient, keep it blockchain, and keep it Cardano.